welcome back to the Ladies in Red podcast. I'm Phoebe. I'm here to welcome you all. We are so excited that you are tuning in with us again for our episode 2. And this week we are having a special guest, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and again, this episode is just another exciting one. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things, such as updates of women in sports, as well as some organizations that have made strides in promoting women in the sports industry in various ways.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this episode, as Phoebe said, because we are featuring our first guest, Annie Pendleton, who is a senior at Dickinson on the women's soccer team and a member of the Hera Society at Dickinson.
So we're going to be asking Annie a bunch of questions in a little bit. We're going to bring her on just about her role as a Hera and what the organization is about and what that means for women in sports in the Dickinson community specifically. So just to start things off, though, we're going to talk about some updates of women in history or women in sports making history. It's always cool to see the headlines, like we talked about a lot in last week's episode. But today we're just going to touch on the things that happened recently.
Yeah, I know that we were talking about this before, but Sarah Thomas and how she will make NFL history as the first female officiate in the Super Bowl, which is super cool. Obviously, it's a huge game. So, yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Sid.
She joined the NFL in 2015 as the first female co-field official. And the only requirements to officiate the Super Bowl are you must have 5 years of experience and good in-season performance as an officiate.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see her. She has been in the NFL for the upwards of 5 years now as a officiate, and now her being able to be at the Super Bowl is really, really cool because she earned her her time there by doing well in her past seasons. And I really liked the statement that the NFL executive vice president, Troy Vincent said. He said, Sarah Thomas has made history again as the first female Super Bowl official. Her lead performance and commitment to excellence has earned her the right to officiate the Super Bowl. Congratulations to Sarah on this well-deserved honor. So just as he says, it is an honor, and it's really cool for her to be able to do that this year and make history while doing it. And another one we talked about last week was Sarah Fuller, who was the kicker at Vanderbilt, who made history as a female being a kicker in collegiate sports, high-level collegiate sports. And really cool thing that she did this past week is she was invited to the inauguration. So I just think that's really, really cool that she had that honor and that ability, especially this year with the limited guest list because of the coronavirus, that she was able to be included in the guest list.
Yeah, and just going off of that, she was asked to attend it in addition to famous entertainers, other activists, and frontline workers, which is cool that she's just being grouped not into the same category, but being asked as some of these well-known people to come to the inauguration. And the special Celebrating America hosted by Tom Hanks, and then other names that will be there, such as Lin-Manuel Miranda, Bruce Springsteen, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, labor leader Dolores Huerta, and just other people too.
Yeah, she'll be a part of the segment Everyday Americans who have stepped up in their communities. And I just think this is amazing because women are using their sports experience and their success in the sports industry to just break barriers in other realms of society like politics and the professional world. And obviously this year, the inauguration is a big one. And I think that breaking barriers into other realms of society is super important for women.
Yeah, like Sid said, this inauguration is even more special for women because of our vice president, now Vice President Kamala Harris. So it's really cool to see the representation of females in, like Sid said, politics and sports. And I think that I saw the other day, Sarah Fuller tweeted about how it was such an honor and everything. And I forget what the hashtag was, but it was something that she was basically putting herself in the position saying I made history for females just as Kamala Harris did, just in different industries. And that's really cool for them to be able to unite together and share that history making characteristic there. So we are going to move to our guest to talk about the organization, the Hera Society that's out of Dickinson. So there's plenty of organizations nationwide and goes down to small individual schools, organizations, just to bring female athletes together. So the Hera Society is something really cool to Dickinson, and we'll have Annie talk a little bit more about that. But we are super excited to have her. Annie is a dear friend of mine. She was actually my freshman year roommate, been friends ever since, and she's one of the most hardworking athletes I know. As we mentioned earlier, she's on the soccer team as well as in a bunch of other organizations on campus. So we're really excited to hear her take on what the Hera Society is doing for women in sports. All right, everyone, we now have Annie Pendleton with us, and we are super excited to hear what she has to say. So just to start off the bat, Annie, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about the Hera Society as a whole?
Yeah, so hi, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and be a part of this podcast today. My name is Annie Pendleton, like Phoebe said, and I am a member of the women's soccer team, and I'm also a member of the Hera Society, which is a group of 8 senior female athletes on campus who come together, and our entire mission is to cultivate relationships between female teams on campus and within Dickinson College as a whole. And with doing that, we are attempting to spread awareness of female athletes on campus and in the Carlisle community.
Yeah, that's super cool. And it's like such a good organization on campus, for sure. And can you just tell us a little bit about how it started?
Yeah, so our class, my class, the class of 2021, is only the 5th class of Heras on campus because we were founded in 2016. And the 8 women at the time noticed the need and the lack of a group like this that was already existing. So they formed together in order to create that cohesiveness that I was talking about within the teams and within the community as a whole.
Yeah, so interesting. And it's amazing how it's such a new organization, but seems to have made a lasting impact on Dickinson so far. What's something that you've enjoyed doing as a Harris so far?
So far, what I have enjoyed the most is last semester, we were lucky enough to launch one of our new programs that we are titling Sister Devs. And the name is it's a draft of a name. I'm not sure that's what's going to stick for the longevity of the program, but essentially what we're trying to do is, especially during this time when we're away from campus, away from our teams, we're trying to create relationships across the teams that you get when you get the opportunity to go and watch a softball game or go watch a field hockey game and see other athletes that you can form relationships with. So what we did is we paired all first year athletes with 2 or 3 upperclassmen who volunteered to be a part of this program and are there to serve as mentors that can help them when it comes to class scheduling and comes to where to live on campus, what the meal plan selections are like, that kind of conversation that we know exists a lot within teams that are already occurring, but sometimes maybe a certain athlete doesn't have a bio major on their team and they have a question about a professor. So just trying to create those different levels of mentorship that we know that we have such strong individuals as female athletes on campus and giving the first years more access to get to know a larger span than just on their own teams.
Yeah, I love that idea. I remember you telling me about that earlier in the fall. And I just think it is, like you mentioned, like just such a good thing to start. And I think it's one of the special things about Dickinson that there are a lot of cross sports relationships and like friendships and stuff like that. Like it's not like you're only friends with people on your team. You can become best friends and intermingle with all of that. And I think that's one of the cool things about Dickinson campus is that it's more of athletes as a whole that are a cohesive group rather than specific teams. So I think that this whole organization and that project that you guys have is just promoting that. And it is really cool. Like you said, sometimes the difference of majors or like different experiences that you might not find just on your one team. So you'd be able to reach out to an upperclassman on another team. And it's always nice to have extra support. So I really like it. And I feel like I could just see it really thriving in the future, being able to just create even more cool relationships. So.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping that as we transition back onto campus, we'll really be able to fortify those relationships even more and get people coming out to more games from different teams and providing that kind of off the field, on the field levels of support as well.
And it's definitely nice for athletes to also have like someone else they can reach out to, not necessarily like someone on their team who's also like another mentor for them, just to get like that a different perspective, and more support from someone else who could be in a different season. Like if you're like a freshman and your mentor is someone who's a fall athlete, like you could definitely see how their everyday life could be similar to yours in the future. So you kind of get to like live through that in a way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this organization is so special just because the female athlete community at Dickinson is small, because Dickinson is a smaller school. So I think you can build really strong, meaningful relationships through it rather than just having like a bunch of friends. Like you can build close relationships with older athletes and younger athletes.
Mm-hmm. And I know that's where some of my, looking back as a senior, looking back on my last 3 or 4 years, some of my strongest relationships came from people that may have been in a different class or on a different sports team. And I'm really thankful for all of those as I look forward and look back at both.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that as well. Me being a senior and looking back at the different friendships I've had and different mentors, that most of them were upperclassmen and some were on different sports teams. So I just really, really like this project and excited to see where it goes.
Me too.
Is there anything else that you guys have done or are working on that you want to talk on?
Yeah, so something I'm really excited about, we're about to launch in the next few weeks, is our longest standing annual event as Heras is we participate and we get Dickinson College to participate in National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Traditionally, this event, I think you've all participated in it before, and traditionally the event's held in the Klein, and we are lucky enough to invite girls of all ages to come from the Carlisle community and come to meet us and to mingle with us and to get to know a little bit about each of our individual sports and get to know, like, maybe it's just one skill from each sport that they walk away with, but getting that exposure has always been something that's really fun. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we will not be able to be hosting that in the Klein as we normally do. But that being said, we are in the process of building a video that's ideally going to serve the same purpose, where not only will the athletes be the college athletes will be demonstrating a skill from each respective sport, they will also be trying to build camaraderie for our college and also spreading our passion for why we've played sports our whole lives, or maybe why we decided to take sports to the collegiate level and so on. So that will be launching on February 3rd, which is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Something we're really excited about. And I think we actually have a really unique opportunity, given the virtual nature of this event now, is that we are going to actually be able to reach a much broader span of girls that are hopefully going to watch this and go out in their backyards and just, maybe it's 10 minutes that they touch a ball for, but that alone will make a big impact. And we will not only be able to spread it to just the Carlisle community, but we are also able to reach out through our alumni database, through the McAndrews Fund and things of that nature, in order to target more girls.
I think that's such a super cool way to like keep the National Girls and Women in Sports Day going, rather than just like having to cancel it as a whole. And it's just like you can broadcast that, like you said, in so many different areas, and just spread even more awareness through like that video. So I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So keep your eye out. It should be posted on February 3rd, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. It was always a fun day when we got to interact with the community and stuff, when we were able to be on campus. It's just something about being able to, like, I don't know, almost inspire or just like instill something in those little girls when they're coming to watch us play, and they just like want to know so much about who we are and what we do and what we stand for. So it's really cool that, like you said, you can take this opportunity to reach a larger crowd, not just our Carlisle community. Although I'm sure it'll be really cool for all of those kids to be able to see us as a female athlete whole in that video. So that's really awesome. I'm excited.
Yeah, I specifically, like Phoebe said, remember participating in this event and how fun it was. And like, I think just after the event, you are so grateful for being able to play your sport, and not only play, just share it with other people, especially little girls, and hopefully like they'll pick a sport and love it just as much as you do. And I think that's super important. And I'm happy that you guys get to at least have some form of an event this year.
Yeah. I remember one of my favorite parts about attending the event in the past is that when you are working with the girls of all ages, you actually like see a little bit of yourself in like their enthusiasm and how excited they are just to be there and to learn and to get to play. It's kind of what keeps you going in the long run, even when sometimes you may not want to get through your own personal whatever, your sprint test or whatever, but to be able to look back and have that memory of those girls that are so inspired, it definitely keeps you going in the long run.
And I think that's so true. Like they do really look up to us in a way, and like we are being mentors for them. And I think like that's just like a cool opportunity for us too. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Annie, for talking with us today. We're really excited. We'll keep an eye out for that video and any events you guys have coming up. Everyone can follow you guys on Instagram, right?
Yes, at the Hera Society.
Exactly, just to keep track of what they're doing. So thank you so much for showing us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you guys. Thanks so much for having me. Have a great day.
Thanks, Annie. Okay, and now it's time for our spoon sponsorship. Okay, so why cut your portions down? If you're hungry, you want something that is both filling but also delicious, right? Well, at Spoon's Cafe, they believe in cutting the chemicals, not the portions. So located at 57 West Pomfret Street, right near downtown Carlisle, Spoon's offers great sandwiches, salads, or soups that are not just good, but good for you and will fill you right up. Stop cutting down on the size of your lunch. Instead, get a delicious filling lunch today at Spoon's Cafe. Open 6 days a week, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Spoon's is the perfect spot to enjoy a great, tasty lunch today.
So now we're going to be talking about similar associations and organizations like the Hera Society that promote females in sports all across the world. The first being the Women's Sports Foundation, which is a United States-based foundation. It was founded in 1974 by Billie Jean King, who we actually mentioned last episode and is a tennis legend. This foundation is a national nonprofit, educational, and member-based organization that is dedicated to just promoting and enhancing sports and wellness experiences for all girls and women. And it just offers participation, education, and advocacy programs for them as well. Just promoting more participation for women in sports and more access to these programs.
Yeah, I think that's super cool, especially because like it's not only talking about the athletic side of it, but also raises awareness for other areas like the education, advocacy, research, and leadership kind of thing, which just allows for more females to be introduced to different areas in like the sports world. And I know that like similarly in Europe, one organization that's kind of like the Women's Sports Foundation is the European Women in Sport, which just also, again, increases the involvement of women at all sports levels across various areas, not only like on the field again, but also like behind the scenes, as we've seen more and more female broadcasters, producers and stuff like that jumping into the sports world. So
yeah, exactly. I think it's really cool to see how we have in our world such big organizations that provide support and awareness for women in sports, and then we have ones on a more local level like the Hera Society at Dickinson. So it's really cool to see the mass amount of different areas for women in sports, female athletes looking for that support, that knowledge, basically information, anything that they are recognized and able to be a part of these organizations or look towards those organizations for some clarity. And like Kristen just mentioned, we're also seeing a lot more women in sports media. Before, it might have been a very male dominated industry where you only saw men broadcasting football, baseball, hockey, those type of sports because they were quote unquote considered male sports. But now we are seeing a little bit more of a cohesion between genders when it comes to that, there actually is an association for women in sports media, which is, again, really cool to have an organization to support females in that industry, and be able to have that and be recognized, and be able to show that there are plenty of women. So it's really cool to see just people on the screens. You see women commentating, broadcasting, basically anything and everything. So it's really cool to see, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's super important, especially this Association for Women in Sports Media, because these women are reporting on male dominated sports, but they have the knowledge to report on them and know the rules, like know everything about them. And this association just promotes more of a participation in the media for women as well.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting because I think we said that there was like 750 members of both men and women in the Association for Women in Sports Media. And I think a majority of them are primarily professionals within the sports industry business, but I know that they also allow for interns and students to participate in the organization so that they can be taught like the various ways behind sports media and like the different paths you can take for those who do aspire to become broadcasters.
Yeah, it's really awesome to have that support there. And they do a lot of advocacy for the different groups of women in the sports industry, whether it's through media or through other things. There's an organization for both, which I think is really cool. And we see that a lot of these have come after the Title IX law.
Yeah, so
no, you could go. You can go.
Okay. So Title IX serves as a public service informational campaign, and it's designed to just educate the public about what Title IX is, and it just requires gender equity for both boys and girls in every educational program that receives U.S. federal funding. And it doesn't just affect sports, it also deals with things such as higher education, careers, employment, learning environment, math and science, everything. So athletics is only one area out of 10 total areas that is addressed by Title IX.
Yeah, and I think of like when people, I'm sure that many people, when they think of Title IX, they first like initially think of like the athletic side of it, but there are also all these other areas, as we can see. So, and then one example that I keep thinking of for this is Sarah Fuller, as we mentioned in this episode and the previous episode, how she's playing on the football team at Vanderbilt. And since there isn't a women's football team, obviously there, but she's given the opportunity to play there, which creates that equality between like the men and female sports. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think that Title IX just allows females to basically do whatever their heart desires, that it doesn't allow gender to be a deciding factor if they can or cannot, either if it's playing a sport or anything like we mentioned that has to do with education, that they can't be discriminated against because of their gender, which just opens so many doors that we all know in the past century, women fighting for their right to vote or their various rights here and there. So it's really cool that they established this in order to make sure that that never happens again, because women should not be decided if they can or can't do something just solely because they are a female. So this is a thing that almost protects and makes sure that we're moving into the future rather than repeating the past. And it just assures that everything is equal and that you can do whatever you want as long as you put your heart to it, that there isn't anything really stopping you.
Yeah. I think that's like similar. Oh, sorry.
No, Kristen, just go.
I think that is similar to like the Hera Society in a way, just because like Annie mentioned, they're trying to raise awareness for females and women in sports, and like telling kids at a younger age that like they can do it, they can do whatever they want, and like creating that mentorship kind of thing, which I think is evident in these organizations.
Yeah, I think to break these barriers of inequality between boys and girls in sports, education, the professional world, everything, it is going to take advocacy programs like Title IX and the Women's Sports Foundation and Association for Women in Sports Media to just break these gender norms and normalize women's participation in the sports industry as well. And I think these organizations and Title IX are doing amazing things for women, and not putting women first, but just making it so that women are granted the same opportunities as men in the sports industry, which they haven't been in the past.
Exactly. And like we've talked about before, it is always super encouraging and inspiring to see someone that looks like you in the position you want to be. So that is like what Hera Society is doing, showing these younger kids of what it's like to be a female athlete in at the collegiate level, and that these organizations are advocating for that. We talked about, I think, in the last episode, about how it was really cool to see Sarah Fuller out there on the football field, and imagining little girls seeing that and being like, you're right, I can do that, because that is really cool. And we're moving into that it gives them more hope and more inspiration, and basically the permission to be able to do anything that their heart desires.
Yeah, it's super cool. Again, just like the women in sports organizations that we discussed today are super important. Like you said, Phoebe, not only for promoting athletics, but promoting better access to other areas. And like those areas such as like the Title IX, the media and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think one important role of these organizations is just to educate women on why they should be involved in sports and the benefits to being an athlete in a world and industry where women are overlooked. I specifically remember just being younger and going to like field hockey camps where older girls were coaching me, and I just thought that was like the coolest thing ever, to look up to like a girl that was like 6 years older than me and was like so good at field hockey, and it like gave me the idea and the passion to just drive and do better and work hard in my sport.
Yeah, I have similar memories. It's so weird to me now that we are the big kids and we do have people looking up to us in our sports and such like that. So it's really, really cool to see and read about these organizations and see how they advocate for women in sports and media, and just to see that they're growing, and it is something that is going to change the norm. So we just want to thank everyone for tuning in again this week. We hope you enjoyed, and we look forward to talking with you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.